I was a bit like, I'm still in high school. I need to decide what to do. And because my parents were both doctors and they didn't really, first, they were really working towards benefiting people. Doctors, I think we are experiencing these now during this crisis, is just how they really put their own lives, in order to save others people's lives. And it's very, very beautiful, but they didn't make that much money because in Brazil, the public doctors, they don't make that much money. So I decided that what I wanted was to make a lot of money fast, so I could give to my parents a good old age. When they retire, they can actually have a good house, they can travel, they can do something. So I went to university and I did law in one university and I studied accounting in another university at the same time. So I did that for 5 years. I had classes from 7 a.m. until 12. Then I had to go and work because my parents didn't have that much money to sustain me. So I was working from 1 to 6:30. Then I was studying from 6:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day for 5 years. So I did that because I really wanted to make money. So then I went to London to do a business course, a finance course in the LSE. And then I started working. Well, I started to already working with law and accounting at some level. Then I went straight to finances and I worked for asset management in Brazil. I worked for 4.5 years there. I became a partner over there. I had a team of 20 people working for me, and we were creating projects and doing what we call private equity, which is investing in small companies. But I wasn't happy. I was there, I was just like, I was 24, 25 years old at the time, and like I was quite successful for my age, and everybody thought that I was, super well, but I just wasn't happy. And at that time, I started to go to meditation courses, I started to do yoga, and I started to look for a counselor, for a therapist, just to kind of like start really asking myself, like, how do I find happiness? Because everybody told me that this was the way, and I did it, and I'm here, and I still need to do some stuff, but it's not there. So this gave me the strength. At that time, I already started to read more about Buddhism, and really, really touched me, and to participate in meditation retreats and meditation classes. And I said, okay, so I need, because of my personality, this is, I think that, how can I say, I think the individual world, it is individual, right? But the way we kind of like decide to make steps in our lives, I really decided on the way we have been working up to that point. So my mind was always very extreme. So I really needed to cut down, everything. So I needed to just go away. So I just sold my car, get out of my apartment, and just decided to leave my work. And I started traveling because I really needed to, how can I say, to rest a bit because I was working a lot.
Thinking what you're just saying, from like
Exactly.
in work.
Exactly. So after university, I worked for 4 years, and it was also the same schedule, 16, 18 hours a day. So I was just really needing to stop a bit and to take care of myself. So my dad said that he wanted to go to Portugal, where our grandparents are from. And then so I said, okay, so I really wanted to come to Asia. I really wanted to come to India, where I've been in India before that. And I said, but actually I think I'm going to just stay here. So I started in the south of Patagonia in Argentina, and I just started walking up from South America. So I did for 6.5 months just walking and just kind of like hitchhiking and doing something like that, just being in nature, just walking and relaxing myself and my body and my mind, because I needed this transition period. Then I went to, after that, what did I do? Then I went to Europe. Yeah, I went actually to Mexico and to Canada to see my brother, then to Europe. and then to Asia finally. And then in Asia, I started to work in some NGOs, in some projects, because I also thought that this was what I wanted, like, oh, maybe I can actually use my skills to serve people, to do some good. And I realized that not only people were very kind of not happy in these NGOs, but I also felt that I was not really helping. There was so many restrictions and so many possibilities. Actually, you can help in many ways. There's so many NGOs and so many projects. So I was a bit like, oh, what to do, how to help. And then, do you know about Amma? Is this lady who gives hugs to people?
Yeah.
No. So she's this woman in the south of India who kind of has an amazing story as well. She's like an Indian woman from a very low caste, and she gives hugs to people. That's the way mm, she kind of like makes people break their hearts. Let's put it like that. Open their hearts in the way of like really touching them in a deeper way. So she gives hugs to people, and she has a big ashram, so a big place for people to actually learn and study and meditate and contemplate. And I had a dream with my mom saying, you need to go there. So I just wake up and said, okay, I'm going to go there. So I went over there, and it was a very interesting and beautiful experience. So I stayed over there, and people were really devoted, because when you go to a place where everybody is going to the same direction, which is really trying to know themselves better. It's a like really understanding their minds, understanding their feelings, understanding how they work, and also understand how why they have decided to make these movements, why they were not happy. It's a self-inquire world, which really when you have a space where it's conducive for that, like these inner process really help, like to clarify in your mind. So I was there, and then I was like, oh, I really like that, but it's still not that. It was the first time that I did some long meditation retreats, and then I decided to go to Nepal because I needed to get out of the country because of visa issues, because of India. And I arrived in Kathmandu, and I went to this place called Kopan Monastery, which is on the top of a hill in Kathmandu, and I just really loved the place. And then over there they have lots of courses. Buddhist philosophy, and especially Tibetan Buddhism, is very logical and very kind of like self-inquire. So it's not about you just sitting down and listening to what they say. It's like really you applying all of these new concepts and new ideas that people are talking to you in your own mind. So when we start to talk about karma and reincarnation and impermanence, all of these new concepts that actually permeate our daily lives, but we don't pay attention to them because we are in a different way of seeing things. It was very, very interesting. So it felt very right. It just felt right. It was kind of like this connection that you feel, and then you say, well, actually, I like that. But if you really would ask me if I would become a monk, I would never say that, because I was a lot against kind of like these too much, like, oh, I was into these extremes, so I don't need to go, like, I don't want to go to these extremes. So I didn't actually thought about, even though there is always this wish to say, okay, actually, if I become a monk, maybe everything is gonna, I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna get there. This kind of like idea that you just shave your head, shave your beard, put on some clothes, and everything's gonna be wow. Yeah, it's not there.
I mean, with what you're saying is like you talk about application and like and what you think was going to happen. I mean, the NGO thing I find is interesting because I sort of had a similar thing of always wanting to like in my teenage years being like, yeah, money, like, because you see like money gets you everything. And then I had the same thing of like, oh, maybe I want to work for an NGO because I want to help people. But like that logic doesn't always apply, because when you work with some of these NGOs, I get what you mean. Like it's just not the same and you don't feel fulfilled. So do you feel that the path you've taken now, it was like the logic's there, and like you said, the application and your practice is also there? Was that a big part of it?
Yeah, I think for me, what was the big part was that in um, in the NGOs, what was missing was that not only was much more chaotic than a business in a business environment because of the lack of funds and lack of expertise and all of that, but there was this uh, it is this basic unsatisfaction of the human mind, and this basic unsatisfaction and of people, even though they are helping others, but they are still unhappy. And I could see that, that it was not necessarily but because we are helping people when we go to the NGOs, and this is my experience. I'm not saying that it is like that for most people, but there is something selfish there. There is something that we are still expecting someone or something to actually, someone to praise us, or someone to come and say that we are a good person, or someone to, there is still some expectations that will create suffering, because they will create some type of like, it's an expectation against the reality, and the reality is another thing, so it is kind of like, it will create some type of conflict, internal conflict, that will not allow us to actually experience just pure fulfillment or satisfaction. So when we come into a mindset that there is an expectation about something that we are about to do, and this can be anything, it's not about just like a career, just working in an NGO, just becoming a monk and joining a monastery, everything that we do. If we come up with these type of mindsets that actually there is some expectation there, an expectation to want something, to get something, then the mind has this incredible potential to not go well. The things are just going to fall apart. Why? Because there's so many causes and conditions for that thing to happen in the way that we want. And not only this, it's just like so many people are involved in that organization and in that aspect. So many people also have different wishes and wantings for the same thing. So because of this, if everybody wants to have that work or their organization to work in the way that they feel it is going to be good, then nothing's going to happen. So that's for me what it is the most important aspect that I realized, that it was, oh, there is still expectation from my side. So that expectation is bringing some type of suffering for myself.
Yeah.
So this doesn't matter for me if it is here, if it is in an NGO, or if it is in joining a monastery. Everywhere can have this mindset.
I think it's interesting you say that there was a time where you never imagined like becoming an actual Buddhist monk, because that step was quite great. Like, we've been brought up as Catholic and Christian children, but recently in the past year began to study Tibetan Buddhism, and I've been reading the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. It's like my first experience with Tibetan Buddhism. It's probably quite a westernized version of it, but I have already, by practicing meditation and reading about Buddhism, I feel like I've benefited greatly from just allowing that space for my mind to be like, to work out who I am and like have that freedom of like thought and like look deeper into my thoughts. But what I was going to ask is, was there ever a moment where you felt alienated by this like really sort of rigorous way of life and this like extremely dedicated practice?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was kind of like in steps, and gradually. When I decided to come to India for the first time, I said I really want to commit myself for at least 3 months to not have external contact, to really dip myself into what I was doing. And this was very hard. Well, first of all, deciding to leave my job was very hard already for many people. The people that I work with all my business partners, they were just like, one of them stayed like shouting at me for 2 hours saying how stupid I was, because I was just like, throwing my life like away, because how can you do that? You just work it so much and blah, blah, blah. And we invested in you. And I understand, because it's so foreigner for him to think about doing something like that. One of the partners, she told me that, she said, I have nothing to tell you, because it's so like strange for me what you're doing. I cannot even think about it. It was so good. And another one that was incredible, because I didn't think about it. It was really a wish that I needed to get out of that lifestyle, because I really needed this time for myself. And one of them told me, just started crying in front of me, which was very awkward, but he said, I really admire the courage that you're having to do that, because I didn't do it and I'm stuck in here, you know? And now he has like a type of lifestyle that he can't. He has so many commitments, financial commitments, you know, like this, the school, the kids, and, you know, all of these, the university, and that he can't let it go. So for me, it was just like realizing when I left, all of these people in some way, like the contact, like was, you know, was falling apart. Then all of my friends from university, some of them really understood because they knew that I was not happy, but some of them they didn't, you know, and they were judgmental because we always judge from our own perspective of what it is most beneficial, right? Oh, this person should be doing that because of course it's better that. Well, we only know because is that what we think is going to be better for us or what we think is better for the other person. We never really put into perspective or into perception the other person's wishes and wants, right? So lots of people really kind of like, for them was very hard. And of course, when you start to like to have a different path, the conversation just becomes different, and the interest is the share, like what you used to share. You know, I used to drink, I stopped drinking at that moment, you know, and then so you don't meet people in a bar anymore. So oh, okay, so where do you meet people? Oh, you don't go to a pub anymore. So oh, you go out for dinner. Ah, okay, we go out for dinner, but then you know, it's just different. It's just a different like. But the people who really stayed in my life, really, I could see that how my relationship became much more deep with them, you know, because they, I don't know how to say, it's just like we started to connect in a different way, you know, we started to really connect in how are you really feeling, you know, what is really going on with you, like are you really happy, or like to really ask questions in the way that we could connect much more with our inner qualities in our inner world and our inner feelings. And you know, so there's lots of my still like my friends from school. I have friends from like almost 25 years, you know, that I know them and they still my friends, and people that I met, you know, during my path as well, because that was one of the things that I realized that when I decided to leave my current my previous job, was that I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going. So to find places and people that have been doing that and having been successfully living a life that doesn't need to be a life that I was used to, also is it's wonderful to see that's like, oh yeah, it's not only me. There's some people, you know, we human beings, we are social beings. We need these social structures, you know, to really connect with one another and to connect with parts of ourselves as well. So it was so interesting for me to realize that, oh yeah, there are families, there are people, you know, that they work, went to university, they're just here doing something else, you know. So for me, it was a bit of like feeling yeah, letting go a certain type of worldview that I really didn't want to, and getting another one that actually was beneficial for the path that I was walking now, you know. But it's funny